Good morning, everybody. I'm Raphael, and this is Mindful Behavior. Today's video, it marks the first video of the year, 2020. Welcome. If you're watching this video, you have made it to 2020. I'm going to show you some tips on how to not get offended by anything. We're also going to cover a scale that I've created where I'm going to cover 4 levels of awarenesses within being offended that can kind of help you guide yourself through where you are and where you've been to where you can be. We're gonna get started. We're gonna jump right in. And with these 4 levels of awarenesses, they're gonna help you get on a more clear path. They're gonna help you on your journey to self-realization. And if you don't get offended by anything, the possibilities are really endless. You can kind of focus your attention on other things when you don't have to get offended by things. People get offended way too much. People are always offended, and so that's kind of takes up a lot of their time and a lot of their attention from what they could be focusing on. So we're going to get started with these 4 levels of awarenesses within being offended. Number 1, that's on the far end of the spectrum of being offended. We're going to say you get offended, right? And you lose it. You lose it to where you're not even aware that you've lost it until maybe after it's over or within the middle of it. Usually when people get into a physical fight, a lot of times that they're not aware of what they could have done better until it's over. Their response has led them to this. They're not even thinking like that. They're just kind of reacting to their environment. So that is the far end of the spectrum. That's also someone who is just kind of impulsive, and they're not really aware much of themselves when it comes to being offended. So if you rest in that level of awareness and you're watching this video, you're on a great path because this is going to give you some insight. But if you're not watching this video, you got to be careful out there in these streets. Some people have gotten killed because they rest in this level of awareness when it comes to being offended. So the next level is where I would say the majority of the people that I surround myself with, at least, I can't necessarily say that's the majority of the level of awarenesses of the people in the world, but I can guess that that's probably where most of us are, especially in the United States. I'm going to tell you this level of awareness when it comes to being offended is when you respond, period. You get offended and you respond. So in this response, it could either be a physical response where you do something or don't do something because you are offended. That falls under the lines of someone who may get petty and respond very spiteful in their actions because they were offended. They can either react physically or they can react emotionally. So those people who bottle it in or even just, let it all out where they get upset, mad, or they may feel hurt or sad because they got offended. So that's just someone who is responding, period, to an offense. That is where the majority of the people who kind of justify themselves and they say they're human, they live in that, they rest in that level of awareness. But there's also, some people, I would say the majority of the people that watch my videos specifically are people who kind of want to get out of that level of awareness. I didn't cover my nose because I didn't want to get my hands dirty. This next level of awareness is where I would hope that the majority of the people that's watching my video will, they kind of aspire to be, or they rest in this level of awareness where you get offended and you don't respond. You see that you got offended, you take it all in, you are offended, but you, instead of reacting, you respond in a very mature and responsible way to where your goal is to overcome it with a solution. And there's some people who also in the level where they are offended and they may respond, they still want to seek a solution. So, there's a little blending of it all because it's all one thing happening. So there's people who get offended and they don't respond. And these are people who are not really reactive, and they also don't find a need or find it necessary to retaliate or to get revenge or anything like that. They kind of let it be what it is, and they kind of don't separate the offense from something that is not an offense. You kind of start to become a better person all around because you start to be unbiased in a sense where you don't judge one thing as being offensive and then judge this other thing as being offensive, you start to kind of just see, wow, everything is what it is, and it is me who is creating the offense. So that's where, a lot of people who want to be a higher self or who want to be more woke, they kind of rest in that, or they want to rest in that level of awareness. Anyway, and so the last level of awareness that I want to share with you guys is where you don't get offended by it. Yeah, so those are the 4 levels of awarenesses that I wanted to share with you guys. I want you to look at the scale and see where you rest the most of your time, the most of your energy, the most of your offense or response to offense, where you sit on this scale. And I've done that for myself. I've done a self-analysis where I just kind of self-reflected and kind of created a percentage of where I stand on this scale. So I'm going to go through that with you right now. I encourage everyone to kind of reevaluate yourself on this scale and maybe share it with us in the comments, because I think people need to see where other people are when it comes to being offended. Because I think a lot of problems in life, a lot of things that kind of distract us from being focused on growth as a human race and as a planet together, we kind of take time from doing that and we get offended. And some people, I guess, can argue that being offended is what creates the growth. So either way, I feel like there's always something that you could do that can make you better in anything that you do. So when it comes to these levels of awarenesses, losing it, I'm probably at 0 to 0.1%, to be honest. I haven't lost it since I've become more aware of myself, and it's been years now. So there's no losing it for me, and I'm only giving myself a benefit of the doubt to kind of say that there's still room for it to happen, because I haven't been exposed to all situations that could ever be offensive to me. So, and I never will. So I can always say that there is going to be a point something percent until I can guarantee it. But the next level of awareness where I get offended and respond, I would say I rest in that honestly about 20% of the time. 20% of my week when it comes to being offended or not being offended in that whole level, in that whole awareness, is about 20% of the time I get offended and respond, whether it's something petty. Let me give you an example. I drink orange juice, not by itself, but in my smoothies. My wife, though, she'll drink a glass of orange juice by itself. And so when it comes to her drinking more of the orange juice and maybe there's a little bit left in the carton, I would say, okay, I would give this to her just because I'm neither here nor there with the orange juice. Even if I really wanted the smoothie with the last bit of orange juice, I can let her have it. But let's say she offends me, and then I get to a point where I now, don't want to let her have it because she's being selfish. Maybe I feel like she don't deserve it, and then I decide to take it upon myself for myself and use my orange juice for me. And that's not necessarily being selfish, but it does mean that I've changed my path of what I would have done if she didn't offend me. So I shouldn't let something that offend me dictate how I respond. But I rest in that about 20% of the time. The next one where I rest in about 30% of the time is me getting the offense, but not getting offended. I am aware that this is something that offends me and the way I want to live my life and in my environment. For the majority of the people, this kind of feels like, oh yeah, this is someone who's living on the higher self, where they get offended and then they don't respond. They feel like that's the top of the line. But of course, no, there's another one, where you don't get offended at all. But when I rest in this, when I'm in this level of awareness where I get the offense but I'm not offended, all I'm doing is literally focusing on a solution without me being involved, without my ego being involved, my emotions and how I want things to be. I kind of ignore those things and still see the offense and then, try to make it better, try to make it not so offensive. And that's where I rest in about 30% of the time. So that's about 50% of my time I rest in those levels of awareness. But The other 50% of the time, I do rest in not getting offended at all, where I don't even see an offense. You know what I mean? Like I can see how it can be offensive to others. Anyone who is offended by it, I can kind of give them a rational response on maybe their offense is not necessary. Maybe that them being offended is just them in their ego. I don't let my ego even create an offense. So I rest in that about 50% of the time. And that is a magical place to be in. Even though I do feel like there's more awareness after that, that is a great place to be in to not get offended. Because now my time isn't absorbed by being offended. And I'm also able to interact with people and give everyone the benefit of the doubt, no matter how snobby other people may think they are, or how someone can't coexist with this particular person and they think that there's such a problem. I don't see that majority of the time. I kind of am able to coexist with everyone, at least everyone that I've encountered so far. So that is a beautiful place to be in, and I kind of encourage all of you to rest in that level of awareness. If we look back on our life, every single issue we've ever had is because we got offended at it. And if you were just on a level where you didn't get offended, how a lot of the things in your life wouldn't have happened the way they would have happened, it's leading you to a point where you will not be offended. You become aware that there is a level of awareness that you don't get offended. And some people are sad that they don't realize that. They don't see that there is a way out to not be offended by something. And as each one of you who watch this video evaluate yourself, you will become better at being less offended, and that will rub off on other people. When they're in your presence, they then will kind of aspire to be like you because they see how you're kind of unmoved. You are not bothered. You are keeping a same spirit, a same energy that is consistent throughout the day. And that is a great place to be in for others and for yourself. So if you enjoyed this video, press the like button. I want you to comment and kind of interact with the video and put your percentage. Tell me where you stand on this scale. And I want you to take this, and if you liked it, maybe share it with someone. Ask them to do the scale. Maybe someone you're dating, maybe your parents. You can find where they are on this level of awareness scale when it comes to being offended. And maybe you all could kind of grow and enhance together and self-realize together. So thank you for watching this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'm gonna go take a shower.